welcome to the podcast, Can You Take My Shift? Your favorite coworkers are off the clock and back for another episode. Wait, no, I started humming a different song. Well, hello and welcome back to the podcast. It's been a hot minute. But minutes can feel like days, weeks, months, years. What is the passage of time? And welcome back to a 2-hour podcast where we discuss each minute that has passed in the 24 hours. Hello, I am your host, She Talks Too Much, and I am joined by sad little Amy.
Oh, that's okay.
Now, Amy, it's been a 24 hours full of excitement and with harrowing loss. Now, sad little Amy. Sorry, that's a mean nickname. We'll stop that. All right. Complacent little Amy.
I feel like that's worse. That is so much worse.
I kid. I'm trying to make, you know what, there's going to be jokes in this podcast, but if you are like us, we're going to get into it because we all want to talk about it. It's new, it's hot, it's in the moment. So, billionaires. Billionaires, billionaires, billionaires. Now, I want you to think about how much money you have to make to become a billionaire. You have to make at least $1 billion. Simple math here. Mm-hmm. And when you are that rich, you're like, cool, what can I spend my money on? Because we all know if you won the lottery, what would you buy first? You'd probably buy a car, a house, maybe and if you want to get up there, maybe a boat, and then maybe go on a couple trips, what normal people do. But then when you have all that money where you've traveled the world, you own 3 homes, you own 5 cars, you've gambled, you've partied, you're like, what can I do with all this money? Hey, do you remember the Titanic? Do you remember all the people who lost their lives in this tragedy? Especially, we're talking like the real tragedy, yes, we have the Titanic movie, but you know what, sometimes you just want to be in the movie. Sometimes you just decide, what would it like to die? As Barbie says it best. Do you guys ever feel like dying?
You guys ever think about death?
So 5 people decided to cram themselves in a tin can to go see the Titanic, and they truly lived their Titanic full fantasy. As we have received the news this morning that the Titan, which was a little submarine. I don't feel like explaining this too much because it's literally consumed all of the news cycles.
Yeah, but I guess if we want to do a quick TLDR, if you were under a rock, which I don't see how you could have been, because this was on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everyone I knew was talking about, even I was talking to all my coworkers at work the other day about it. But if you don't know, I guess maybe we're not all chronically online, which, fair enough. Yeah. There was a small I don't even think it's technically a submarine, but a subaquatic vehicle.
Vessel,
something like that. Ran by a company of OceanGate, which is known for doing trips down to the Titanic. There was 5 people who got on their little ship. 4 of them billionaires. 1 of them was the CEO of the company. Sorry, 3 of them are billionaires. 1 of them was a billionaire's son. 1 of them was the CEO of the company. And they went down in the ship. This was, I think, the second one they'd done this year, because this company was known for doing trips down to the Titanic. And then all of a sudden it became national news that they had lost contact, because Oh, what made this different than a submarine is it had like a thing attached to the surface. So they weren't fully like detached. But then they like lost contact with the ship. And so then the Coast Guard had to go out to find them. Like Canada, the US, like everyone was out there looking for them. And people didn't really know what was going on. All people knew is they had about like 80 something hours worth of oxygen between the 5 people. So like obviously people were like, well, there's essentially like 3 scenarios that could have happened. One, they got down there and just like completely imploded. Just something happened, the ship literally got crushed like a pop can, and that's how they lost contact. Two, I don't know, something fell apart, they lost contact, and they're just lost down there somewhere and they're gonna run out of oxygen. Because if they made it down to the Titanic, or at least deep enough, I think they said it took at least like 4 hours to come back up. I don't fully remember. There was a lot of information going around about this. And then the other one was that their ship got stuck in the Titanic, which that one made me laugh the most. So I was like, well, if there was any way to go. But we found out this morning, because I think last night when at least I went to bed around like midnight, 1 a.m., they said that they had about 4 hours worth of oxygen left. And at that time, there were reports of Coast Guards hearing banging noises under the water. And everyone's like, damn, that's like pure nightmare fuel. But we learned today that they discovered debris from what they believe is the submarine. So the theory that the submarine imploded is what happened. Which, don't get us wrong, it's tragic. Like, it's sad. But at the end of the day, it's also so dumb and so unavoidable. Like, this whole thing was so avoidable, and I think that's why nobody has pity for these people, which is unfortunate as a society. But again, these are billionaires who could afford to do this. I actually saw a TikTok of this girl who, she always breaks things down in like girly speak. And I really appreciate her doing this. Like, she'll break down like 401ks and like terms of like buying shoes and like shit like that. And it's honestly like very informative. But she broke down the idea of these billionaires paying $250,000, because this was the thing that a lot of us were like hung up on, was the fact of like, holy shit, like that is so much money to a common person. Like for Kelsey and us, that's life-changing money.
Yeah.
You know, like that is so much money. But to a billionaire,
it's nothing.
That's literal pennies. Like this girl, what she did is she took like the average income of a person, and the average income of like obviously a billionaire is $1 billion, and $250,000 is about, she said it was about 0.014 of their income. So literally nothing. So she broke down, I think it was like something like $60,000. So she took like 0.014 of $60,000 was about $7, which was about $144,000. So $7 is about a nice coffee at Starbucks if you're getting oat milk and vanilla and all that stuff. So for 2 iced coffees, these people got into a pop can and had to sit crisscross applesauce, being controlled by a Logitech controller, looking at the submarine through a screen. Or sorry, looking at the Titanic through a screen. Like, do you see why we don't have pity for them? It's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah. It's very hard to be, especially because, so at around the same time, a boat with like over 100 migrants in Greece capsized, and there's hundreds of people dead, yet nothing was done to save them. But Canada and the US have probably spent millions of dollars looking for this fucking submarine.
Of taxpayer money.
Of taxpayer money. And then like
of our money.
Yeah, and all these people died fleeing a country, but we have to spend, our taxpayers have to spend all this money on saving these people who willingly, and like the way, what has come out about the waivers that you have to sign to get in one of these things? It literally says like death 4 times in it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the creator of or a producer of The Simpsons said that he actually went on one of these expeditions like 3 times, something like that. It was a stupid
Yeah.
amount. I was like, you have too much money, sir. But yeah, he said on the first page of the contract that you have to sign to sit your ass in a pop can was
Mm-hmm.
there was death on the first page 3 times.
Yeah.
And look, Kelsey and I were on a flying pop can last week. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing saying that like pop cans can't technically be a safe form of travel. But there were things that came out about Ocean Gate. And like the CEO like had videos saying like, oh, like we're doing this on the cheap, like essentially of him like admitting that they were cutting corners on building the
Yeah.
submarine or subnautic vehicle. It's not a submarine, whatever it is. And I just, it's wild to me that even if you're a billionaire, you will cut corners as much as possible to try to save your money.
How do you think they became billionaires?
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like people are like, so they spent all this money and they could have helped people. And I was like, to become a billionaire, you are not an ethical person. There is no such thing as an ethical billionaire. You can be an ethical millionaire, but you cannot be an ethical billionaire.
Yeah.
Because like it's just what it like it's crazy and wild to me that like yeah, this money was nothing to them. The only one I feel some sort of sympathy for is the 19-year-old, because it came out that like his aunt talked about it where he didn't want to go, but his dad wanted to do this for Father's Day.
And
So it's like this kid was scared. I don't know. This could be like, again, we don't know. This could be his aunt speaking through her ass, trying to gather sympathy for her nephew. But also, like, when you're like I don't feel any sympathy for any of the full adults. But you're 19. Your prefrontal cortex is not.
oh, it's not developed.
Yeah, you're 19 years old. You're like still freshly out of the womb. Like, yes, 19-year-olds can make very bad decisions, but like this is a weird decision that you would even bring a 19-year-old down there. Like, I could not imagine my parents at 19 asking me to do that. Like the
It's a
only
weird
comparable thing,
graduation gift.
yeah, like if my dad was like, "Oh, do you want to go skydiving with me for Father's Day?" Like I would say no.
Yeah.
I absolutely not, because yes, like people skydive all the time. This is like the only comparable like comparison that I can give myself. But yes, I know people have like safely skydived, but I also know people have died horrifically skydiving. So why would I want to do that? And it's not I like it's this weird like when you're that wealthy, you get to a point where money means nothing for you. Like if you've seen the Hunger Game movies, Finnick says to Katniss, like, you could make out like a bandit here in the capital, and she's like, I have more money than I need, and I don't care for jewels. And he says, I haven't dealt with anything that common in years, because rich people, once they have everything, it's about buying power, and like that's what they want.
Oh
You
yeah.
have enough when you have enough money, like greed goes for money first, and then money gives you can only give you a certain amount of things, right? Because like if you have so much money, you're like, I don't need 18 yachts. But like for you to pay to do something that other people can't do, right? It's just like
Yeah, it's a constant like one upping. It's kind of the same
mm-hmm.
idea when people go to like Mount Everest.
I literally was just about to say
Yeah,
that. You
yeah.
took the word straight out of my mouth.
I'm so glad
Like,
the brain cell's on point.
yeah. Because there was a news story about Mount Everest where this woman was in the death zone and these people had to bring her down, and then she refused to pay them for saving her.
Yeah. That was
Like
messy. That was really messy.
yeah, that's so messy. And I think like a lot of people I've seen so many funny tweets. So many funny tweets. And
Yeah. I will
people
say
are
this
like
is probably one of the top internet moments of this year, and we've had Queen Elizabeth pass away.
exactly. That's the thing though, is a lot of people don't have sympathy because they're like, oh, this is a major tragedy. No, what happened in Greece was a major tragedy. These people were fleeing their country. What happened here was a bunch of idiots had an accident, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, nobody, if if so, they say that the sub probably imploded, and I've seen that is a horrific way to die. All you can hope that they died quick. They died instantly. It is a very because like it crushes and explodes. So that is one of the most horrific ways to die.
Yeah.
But at least you can hope that it was very quick for them. Like none of us are wishing ill will on these people. None of us are like, I hope those little cocksuckers suffered and are crying. No, like I think honestly, running out of oxygen and sitting there would be worse way to die.
Yeah, well, because then your brain just goes to like the worst possible cases in humanity where they said, oh, well, there's 86 hours worth of oxygen for 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they started, fit like, like worst case scenario, like Lord of the Flies, like in a pop can.
Like the thing, because some people, but it really depends on your situation. Because when we had, if everybody remembers the boys, was it the boys football team that got stuck in that cave?
Yes.
Yeah, so because someone was like, oh, when are they going to resort to cannibalism? I was like, well, they've been down there for 5 days. They're not going to resort to cannibalism yet. But when you are that rich, you have a lot of greed. The reason why all those boys survived is because they didn't have a lot of oxygen, they didn't have any food, was their soccer coach was an ex-monk. So he had them meditating the entire time.
Yeah. It was
To
crazy.
to keep them calm because as we all know, when you panic will kill you the fastest.
Yes.
It's like when someone's drowning. They drown because they panic. And so I think that would have just been more horrendous because they had CO2 filters, but apparently the CO2 filters would have run out before the oxygen ran out.
Yes. But I remember this article because a lot of people were like, talking about how well, these like they have so much money, it's like thrill seeking. How can people have
Mm-hmm.
like that bad of a luck? And some people were like, rich people actually have like a gene or like can have some kind of like mutation in them, and they run it back to like the Kennedy family. So everyone says that there's like a Kennedy family curse. There was something wrong with that entire family. They thought somebody cursed them. I wanted to say priest. It's not a priest.
It just if you carry Madame Zeroni up the hill,
Yeah,
your
but yeah,
family will be cursed.
yeah, but they got essentially they got cursed. That's why everyone thought that was happened. But actually, scientists believe that there's like a risk taking gene that when you have so much money, just completely goes out the window. Or some even like daredevils, like people who do like crazy things, have that gene in them because they just have like no risk aversion. They think because like they're mightier than God or because they have so much money that nothing terrible can ever happen to them.
I do think there is something in that because we all know, so when you're a child, you're discovering the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kids have a lot less fear than adults do because kids don't always understand the consequences. So kids will just jump. So, because I remember I went to a climbing gym and I was just scared to rappel, and I was like, "How?" And I saw a 10-year-old child do it, and I said to the climbing instructor, "Why am I terrified?" And he's like, "Because kids have no fear."
Yeah, my dance teacher said the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when they were trying to teach people how to do like aerials and backflips. Like these nine year olds, like even if they landed funny, they'd be like, "No, I gotta try again. I gotta try again." And then there was
Yeah.
me at like 14 being like, "Absolutely not. I'm gonna break my neck."
Yeah. So it could be because it could be, and it also can be like a hormonal thing because as we all know, a lot of mental illnesses are hereditary.
Mhm.
And if you're someone like me who has chronic anxiety, I anxiety is where your body's always constantly in fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
So I think about since I'm constantly in fight or flight, I think everything's going wrong. Like the world's gonna end, like everything's going wrong. But the opposite of that could be with people who are daredevils, where nothing's gonna happen. They have no fear, and like that's that. There's so many different. I'm sure there's like 1,000 different theories, and nothing's ever 100% proven. But it totally could be, and I think when
Yeah.
you have that much money and you have had that much luck in the world, like when you're not afraid of something because you've been handed something your entire life and you haven't had consequences, right? You're never going to be afraid of riding in a car if you've never been in a car crash,
Yeah.
right? So because it's like you think oh, I get in a car every day, I'm not going to get in a car crash, and then when you do, it's like I can't believe this happened. It's like, well, car crashes happen every single day.
Yeah.
But it's like because it hasn't happened to you, and when you're that wealthy, it's like, well, bad things don't happen to me because I'm rich and I can, if I do something wrong, I can usually pay my way out of it. Or I have the luxury of, being protected. Like, especially in the United States. Like, oh, nobody in my family's ever gotten super sick. Well, it's because you had the money to constantly go to the doctor, get regular checkups.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anyone who just gets a regular checkup. Oh, everyone I know who goes to the doctor is like, all right, something's really wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when you are that wealthy, you're afforded a false sense of security.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I really liked that train of thought in that way. There's also another theory. Kelsey, do you want to dive a little bit into conspiracy world with me?
Okay, before we get into conspiracy and the memes and the funny things, we'll say rest in peace
Yes.
to the five. That's a terrible way to die, but hopefully they did not suffer.
That is one thing, is apparently they did not.
That is good.
Yes, apparently. So when that kind of stuff happens, it happens so fast and so instantaneous that your brain doesn't even register what has happened. And then you just kind of, that is
So rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get into the funny, stupid shit.
Yes. Well, there is a conspiracy theory.
Ooh, I do love those.
I
knew those were coming out.
Exactly.
No matter what. No matter what happened, I knew we would get so many conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the conspiracy theory. This one, I don't fully believe, but I see where people are coming from with it. So, again, on TikTok, where we all get our information from nowadays, this man said that he doesn't believe that any of them were actually ever on the submarine. He believes that they all faked their deaths. Because people are like, is there footage of them getting on the ship? Is there proof of them getting on the ship? What kind of billionaires were these people? We already know that OceanGate has some history. I believe last year an employee was fired for saying that these vessels were not safe. And so people are like, if there's no proof, they could have just faked their death. Because another one of the weird things is they said that the ship most likely imploded only about 2 hours after it had been underwater, which is not very far at all. So the fact that they were searching for so long, saying, well, we hear this, we can't find anything, la 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 la. Why did it take so long? And also, if they knew it had imploded 2 hours into it, and they're able to confirm that right now, I know we were you and I were joking yesterday, being like, what are they hiding from us? What are they hiding?
Exactly.
But potentially, I don't know. Look, I love a good conspiracy as much as the next bitch. Don't get me wrong. Do I fully believe it? No, but I do believe there's a little grounds for it being true. And yes, shout out to Cleffa, because they sent me this TikTok earlier that I was like, can you please send me this, because I need to watch this.
Yeah. No, I've seen quite a few. Cause for me, so we've all seen the memes. So one of the guys, his stepson, we have learned more information about his stepson than I ever needed to know.
Yeah.
While they were searching for his missing stepfather, he was like, he would want me to go to a Blink 182 concert.
Yeah, he was also apparently messaging OnlyFans models. And this is a headline from the most reputable source of them all, Daily Mail.
Yeah.
This was the headline. It says, your stepdad is lost at sea. California man whose billionaire stepfather is on missing sub asks OnlyFans models to sit on him 30 minutes after pleading for prayers as he triggers war of words with Cardi B over Blink 182 concert.
He also posted, he's
You
like, oh, I can't.
like
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm like I read that and my brain just like melted, smoothed out a little bit. That
Yeah.
is not it. If you were to tell that to a Victorian child, they would pass away.
Well, because he said like, oh, I can't be there looking because I have $100 to my name and I can't go anywhere because of legal issues. And I think I can't remember if it was assault, he assaulted a woman or
Oh,
stalked a woman.
he has I have a tweet for this too.
Oh.
He was jailed for making death threats to various female rave DJs. And yeah, apparently there's news that he didn't have a passport. So like man of mystery over here.
Absolutely, like what? Like it's wild. Like the thing is, if they had faked their deaths, like obviously he's clearly the black sheep of that family.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like I feel like he would be this guy is gonna try and milk whatever he can.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like if they were faking their deaths, he would have already started putting out that suspicion.
Yeah. He'd be the first one to fucking leak it, that's for sure.
Exactly. It's just absolutely like wild to me, and I've seen so many like this man. First of all, I never want to see anything about that man ever again. But one of the funny things, he's like, oh, they'd want me to see because Blink 182 is touring. They're always touring.
Yeah, they're fine.
It's not the Eras tour. It's
No.
Blink 182, who were supposed to perform at Fire Festival.
Yeah, like they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like I think my favorite tweet is the one where it's a bunch of orcas and because so the one thing they thought that might be alive because they heard banging. And then now that it's imploded, everyone's like, what is the banging? And it's like it's the ocean. You don't ask questions you don't want to know. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the bottom of the ocean. Like leave the ocean alone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I mean, this is like kind of off topic, but not quite. We just went and saw the live action Little Mermaid, which I would give like an 8 out of 10. Pretty solid. Probably like top 3 Disney live action movies. I know the bar's on the floor, but yeah, it's up there. But one of the only reason I thought of this is because like one of the lines is like, Lay's like, we don't deal with the ocean. We don't trust the ocean. Like there's things in there that like wanna hurt us.
Yeah. Like everybody believes in things, like whether or not you follow organized religion or you're spiritual or you're more like naturalistic, whatever floats your boat, whatever sinks your submarine. Sorry, too soon.
Whatever sinks your vessel.
Yeah. But I grew up on an island surrounded by the ocean, and I feel like people who like I don't know where any of these billionaires lived, but when you grow up so close to the ocean, you like, especially where I grew up, like so many field trips to the ocean were all like explain like all our science trips are about the ocean and the animals, and like I just feel like I have such a deeper understanding of it that a lot of people who live inland, and like we're taught at a very young age how dangerous the ocean is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that when you're so rich you just don't think you have any consequences. But when you're a school teacher and you have 39-year-olds, you don't just let them go running into the ocean. You tell them horror stories.
Yeah.
So you don't lose a child and get sued.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to say like one of the scariest moments of my life was when I got pulled from like by an undertow in the ocean, and you like literally got like, I remember it like so vividly, and this happened when I was in middle school. I got like quickly pulled by an undertow, and I wasn't even that far out. I was waiting a little bit, and then I saw myself getting pulled along the ocean floor. and I was, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was like by myself. I was probably in a very unsafe situation, but it was like a public beach.
Mhm.
But I remember just like getting up, like I got out of it and I got out of the water, and then I just like sat on the beach for the rest of the day. And my dad was like, "Do you not want to go in the water?" And I was like, "No." I was
Yeah.
scarred for life. It's
Oh yeah.
scary.
The ocean is terrifying. Not
Yeah.
only can the water kill you, there's sea creatures that can kill you, and people are always afraid of sharks. And you know what? Yeah, sharks can be terrifying, but people always underestimate the whales.
Oh, you don't fuck with whales.
You do not fuck with whales. See, like we have seen blackfish. We have seen like orcas. Those are the most dangerous whales out there. Like orcas have it's great because orcas have been sinking boats, and then that meme, it was a bunch of orcas like banging on drums, and it was like, oh, the ocean is safe, come down,
Yeah, it's fine.
it's
Yay.
fine.
Come
So
find this
like,
noise.
so maybe a way, maybe like they could have hit a sea creature, and that could have caused, like, the way that thing was like riddled with issues, and it was like, I would not be surprised if it just like snagged on something and imploded. But these sea creatures can kill you.
Oh
Like
yeah.
orcas have been sinking boats. They've killed people. Like at SeaWorld, the whole Blackfish was about this orca that literally would drown the trainers.
Yep.
Like whales are beautiful creatures. They're one of the most beautiful, majestic creatures you will ever see in your life if you do get to see a whale in person.
Hmm.
But they are terrifying.
Yep. They're so big. Like, they're
They're
so big.
Yeah, people underestimate how fucking big they are and how vicious they are. It's just like dolphins. People think, "Oh, dolphins are so happy." Nah, dolphins kill people too.
Yeah, these fish or mammals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Like there's been studies shown that they're currently able to like mimic certain like English words.
Mhm.
One of those words happens to be my name. That shit's scary. But I'm trying to look at the bright side. And maybe if they know my name, they will spare
You're
me
safe.
in the Orca uprising, okay?
I hope they'll spare me too. I've always been a for the whales person.
Yeah.
I remember winning a whale watching trip when I was
Ooh.
10, and my dad and I didn't see a single whale, and I was very upset, but I couldn't get my money back because I won the trip. And then the first time, so I took the ferry over to Victoria, and sometimes you'll see whales on the ferry,
Yeah.
but it's like rare. Like I think I've rode the ferry like 1,000 times and only maybe seen whales 10 times. Was taking my ex home to meet my parents, and they're like, "Oh, are we gonna see whales?" And I was like, "Well, it's very rare. 3 pods of whales." And
That's a lucky
and I was
day.
like, "You have a horseshoe like rammed right up there, don't you?"
That's insane.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then because you look at them from far away, and they are a lot bigger than you think, and they are a lot smarter and a lot more vicious. There's literally a law in Canada. So, if you see a pod of whales and you are on your motorboat, you are to stop your motorboat and head away from them. Because it is, if you get too close to them, it is $100,000 fine in Vancouver. And there was literally a video go viral of this person who drove right through the pod. Like I think that's what started
Oh
this
yeah.
uprising.
That person cannot be alive.
Yeah, but yeah, because when I used to work at a boat rental place, like we had to tell them, if you see whales, I know they look cool, do not go near them. And if you tell people that, they go, oh, okay, okay. But as soon as you go, it's $100,000 fine, they start to take it serious. Because again, people don't give a shit until like
There's a
money's,
consequence. Yeah.
yeah, and money's involved. And it's like, yeah, if you do that, and like we would have to we'd overdo it. Like the Coast Guard is always in the rounds, like
Yep.
because people will just like they underestimate it. It's like for me, I was like, bears look so beautiful. That thing will rip you to shreds.
Yeah, they're not as cuddly as the plush on your bed. I can promise you that.
Exactly. Like look at Jungle Skog.
That is the friendliest bear you'll ever see.
Exactly. I can cuddle with Uncle Skog. A grizzly bear would rip me to shreds. The one time I came home and a black bear was on my front doorstep, I closed the front gate very slowly and then walked away and then ran.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, they mean business.
Exactly. And it was hungry because it should have been in hibernation, but we had such a dry year that it was looking for food. And I was like, yep.
Not
So,
today.
yeah. But again, I am poor, so I have this little thing called self-preservation. Yeah.
Yep. Nope. Oh, to be rich and not have any consequences.
Exactly. Oh, to be rich and think, the ground won't hit me. It'll just cushion me if I jump off a building.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, but yeah, so rich people are stupid. But I also want to talk
That's the quote
about
of this episode. Rich people are stupid.
rich people are stupid. I think I titled this, "Come on, billionaires, pull yourself up by your bootstraps." That'll get you to the surface.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But one of my other things that I loved was people were talking about if let's say that they hadn't imploded, they were able to find them and they brought them back up to the surface. First of all, what would they say? Would all four of them still be alive? And then someone was like, so what do you think they talked about?
Oh, yeah, I saw memes of people being like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna play, like, Never Have I Ever.
Yeah.
Or, like, Truth or Dare. Or, like, the
Yeah.
first question, which corner did you poop in?
Yeah, they also had to poop in that. Well, actually, I mean,
If they weren't, if they weren't alive that long, they had no time to poop.
No.
So, yeah, and then I know some people were like, is it almost, and this might come off as insensitive, I don't mean it to. It's very much a joke. People are like, is it better for them to have imploded and never, like, know what was said about them in person? Or could you imagine living through that and then having to come back up and then read about everything people were saying about you, which obviously we would much rather prefer for them to be alive, and honestly that would probably make for a very interesting movie down the line, because Hollywood would eat that shit up.
Oh, Hollywood is already working on it. I literally saw, like, I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but it's like Titanic 2.
No.
The controller. Starring Stockton Rush and Logitech F710. No sub on Earth could get any cheaper.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Directed by James Cameron. Well, they literally had it added to the Titanic death toll.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And I also saw that James Cameron made a quote about it, and he literally said, what did he say? He said, find it. I had it up here.
Because James Cameron has been down there multiple times.
Oh, James Cameron, if he could fuck the ocean, he would. Man loves the ocean, okay? Or I guess he loves deep sea exploration. And that's totally fine. That's his niche. He's a billionaire, but he does it safely, unlike these people. But James Cameron spoke to ABC and said, I am struck by the similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about the ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field.
Yeah.
So they kind of did it to themselves.
It's well to me because we have waivers. So in the legal field, before you do anything, you got to sign waiver. You have to sign waivers for everything. And it's because people are sue happy. They love to sue because money. It's simple as that. But if I read a waiver that was like, you could die 12 different times, I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. Because I've read a couple waivers about some things and I'm like, Because I literally signed up for a baseball team and I had to sign a waiver that if I got hurt, I was fine.
Yeah.
Because you have to do your due diligence.
Yeah, you're not responsible.
But the ways I would get hurt on a baseball field is very, very rare that I would die. I mean, there's never a possibility that you won't die.
Yeah.
You just get the ball hit in the right place and...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, to the...
Yeah.
Right to the head.
Reading it over, wouldn't you think, maybe this, if that money was literally the equivalent of like a iced coffee to them, and clearly like James Cameron is riding around on something safer.
So
Wouldn't you just kind of like want to maybe pay for 4 iced coffees to not implode to your death?
yeah, so like these people went on something that was the equivalent of like 2 iced coffees or like an expensive salad at like a salad bar. And James
Mhm.
Cameron paid for like an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't
So
you think that when you have that much money? Like, for me, it's like, okay, so I could, for if we're talking iced coffees here, so I could pay $2 for a Tim Hortons ice cap that's probably gonna make me shit my pants, or I could pay $7 for the oat milk latte for a venti oat milk latte at Starbucks.
that won't make you shit your pants.
That won't make me shit my pants. So like, yeah, ooh, it's a $4 difference, but I kind of take, not shitting my pants.
And a little bit higher. I would prefer to
Yeah,
keep it there. Thank you.
I will pay $4 not to shit my
And to
pants.
keep my undies clean. Thank you.
Yeah. So I would pay like, I don't know, let's say it's twice the price. I would pay $250,000 not to die in a fiery explosion and being crushed. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. Just girly things. That's just me.
Just girly things.
Just poor person things.
Just poor person things. But again, like we mentioned earlier, rich people stay rich by making sure they don't spend all their money. So
Exactly.
these guys are probably like, damn, it's a really fucking good deal. Why not? And
Well,
it's not like this company, this wasn't their first expedition to the Titanic. They had
Yeah.
done other ones before. There was one that this guy was told about, in the news. He said he did a mission a couple years ago. This man's done it. He's done it twice. But he said they were incredibly lucky because when they made the descent, there was a delay of about 5 hours because of electrical issues. And apparently, so the first submarine didn't work. And a dive at about 1,600 meters had to be abandoned. And right before the tour, a bracket from a tube that balances the vessel broke off, and it was reattached by zip ties. And then they went down. Like, this dude said that this shit was more extreme than flying over Russia. They're in like a war. And this still sounded fun to people.
Why? Like, clearly something is missing in like rich people's heads, because yeah, again, like I said, not an ounce of self-preservation, not an ounce of thought, like head empty, no thought. Like, if you, especially since it wasn't like, I could understand if you were going down and the sub had a giant glass wall, like, and you could see the whole thing. Like, I'm sure it's like, we were just in Niagara Falls, and pictures don't do Niagara Falls justice. It is fantastic in person. And we paid the $35. So this is our version. $35 to get on the horn blower to go close to the falls. Now, we signed a waiver. There wasn't anything about death and waiver, although like, don't fucking jump overboard.
Yeah.
They're like, hold on to the railings, don't jump overboard, don't do that. We also watched them. They literally do these boat cruises once an hour.
Yeah, so these boats
Like,
were coming and going, like
all day. Like, so I watched it. The fact that they even let like underage children on there
it's safe.
it's safe. Yes, there is still, you could die if you jump overboard or if the boat capsized.
Yeah, there's always, again, worst case scenario.
There's always a risk. However, the risk is you mitigate the risk, and the risk is very, very small. This risk, literally, the way everything sounds, I am surprised nobody died before this.
Truly.
Yeah. But like when you get up to Niagara Falls, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but as soon as you get kind of close, the mist completely covers your face. You cannot see. anything. We were all wearing glasses, and I was like wiping my glasses, going, "This is so beautiful." Meanwhile, I can't see for shit.
Yeah, or I had my poncho like wrapped over my head, so I was like,
Yeah.
"This is so pretty," but the poncho's red, so I'm seeing everything through like a red piece of plastic. I'm like, "Oh wow, so
Yeah.
nice."
So honestly, the best view of the falls is from just on dry land because you can actually see the momentous beauty that it is. But in this stupid little subatomic vessel, or whatever we're calling this vessel, they were seeing it through a camera, a tiny little porthole, and a camera and a screen. So like, why don't you just watch? Like, why don't you just? There's museums. There's like, if you're seeing something through a screen, what is the point? Because there's already fantastic footage out there of it.
Well, and also apparently, like the Titanic's like fully breaking apart. It's been under the ocean for over 100 years,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess they said that there's some sort of like metal-eating bacteria in the water that's like eaten away at the Titanic, which would also potentially eat away at anyone who's going to see the Titanic. Like this boat wants to be left alone. There is nothing left to see down there. It's been 100 years. Let it decompose. Like Kelsey said, there's museums.
Yeah.
It's a 3-hour movie about this thing if you're that curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's just, you're also paying to go down to a watery grave. It's a grave site.
yeah. So it also seems like disrespectful. Although apparently one of the guys on the ship, on like this submersible, I think that's what the word is.
Okay.
One of the guys on the submersible, apparently his like great grandparents died on the Titanic. They were the ones featured in the movie of like the old couple like hugging each other in bed, which is like a very heartbreaking scene, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently that's like his grandparents, what the couple was based off of. And I was like, oh my God. And then there's just, as the internet does. Oh, sorry, his wife's great grandparents. Thank you. Nonetheless, still nuts, but people are just like, he just wanted to go see his relatives. Now he's with his relatives, like, forever. Or I guess his in-laws forever. That sounds awful, honestly. Why would you, I mean, depending on if you like your in-laws or not, this could go one of two ways.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, I don't think I'll ever have as much money as a billionaire, so I will never fully understand what it's like to just be like, yeah, let's like do it. I mean, the craziest thing I've ever done is I've scuba dived. That was very fun. Snorkeled. Very enjoyable. I don't even like going on the little submarine ride at Disneyland. And that thing is on a track. It's not even fully underwater. That ride scares the shit out of me.
No, but can we talk about that ride? That ride is awful.
That ride is so bad.
They pack you in. So I feel like I've experienced what they experienced. I mean, not the fiery explosion, but like they pack you in there, and I have rode that ride I think only like 2 times. Both times, a child has decided I'm gonna have a full-blown meltdown in this tin can where none of us can get out.
Yeah, it's not fun, and you're looking through a window, and it's just like projections on a screen. Like, sure, it's like kind of cute, I guess. It's like all Finding Nemo themes. Like, it's sweet, but it's still awful because they're blowing like air and oxygen like right into your face as you're sitting there. So you're also freezing your ass off in this little submarine.
Mm-hmm. No, the Epcot version of that ride is much better. You're in a little clamshell just going along.
Yeah, it's lovely. Lovely.
Do that any day over being packed in a submarine, like packed like a sardine in a submarine, having a children scream.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Never.
No. Again, like it just there's no thought process. Like I just can't get over the lack of thought process. Like I'm trying to think of the most I don't even know what the most dangerous thing I've ever done is.
Jaywalk.
I mean, yeah. Like, when I went to take my engagement photos with Trevor, we were on a sailboat, and we go up to the very front of the boat, and then they're like, oh, just, like, hold this thing and hang off. And, like, it's the ocean. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
because I am a very strong swimmer. I've been swimming since I was a baby. I am very confident. But again, the ocean is another beast. You can be a lifeguard and still drown.
For sure.
Because the ocean does not give two shits on who you are.
Yep.
It's just like a fire. Water and fire do not give a shit about who you are. A fire will burn everything you own to the ground, will light you on fire. Same as water. Well, ocean doesn't give a shit, it will drown you.
Yep.
And so I was like holding on and I was like terrified and I was shaking, but you also have to have that weird, and then the first mate was just like running around the boat and he just had this confidence of someone who's been on a boat for like their entire life, but still like he had that, there's that fine line between confidence and cocky.
For sure. Yeah. There really
and
is.
and you have to be confident in order to be safe, but when you get too cocky, that's when you get careless. Like we went paddleboarding and my parents were trying to get me to stand up and I was like shaking because I've never done it before, so I'm like shaking and I'm going very slowly and my mom's like, you have to go faster because it'll make it easier. So I like start to go like a little bit faster, and it's right, you have to go fast, but if you just go like, oh yeah, I'm good at this, you flip your board and you fall in.
What I did.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Not quite. So yeah, Kelsey was struggling to get up. And I was like, oh, like, I don't know if I could do it. But then Kelsey's parents were like, Amy, like, you try. And the thing is, like, Kelsey and I are athletic, but on different levels. And I think that's just kind of what it is. Like, I know I have better balance than you. I think I'm very fair in saying that. And when you're on a paddleboard, that is what you need, is you need to have good balance. So that was, like, literally the only reason I was able to get up in, like, one foul swoop. And you were even like, show off, and I was like, damn, I did it, like, cool. But it was very shaky, and I could feel it in my legs, and I was like, okay, like, we're doing this, we're trying. And I felt like pretty stable for the most part, and then I like went to go move the paddle hit the board, I lost my balance, and I went like right into the lake. And the only thing that Kelsey's parents said were like, wow, I'm surprised she didn't lose her sunglasses. Because I didn't. Like, I was totally fine. I was soaking wet, but I was fine. And I got, like, right back on the board. I stood right back up. But I was, like, the whole time I was so shaky, and I, like, I still did it. And when we got back to shore, Kelsey's parents were like, yeah, we were gonna, like, tell Amy that there was, like, a wave coming, but we were scared if we, like, shouted at her, hey, there's a wave, she'd fall back in the water. Which, honestly, was fair, because I was probably, like, one good wind gust away.
Because you would have panicked.
Yeah, you would have panicked, and I would have been like, ah.
Yeah. Because panic and cockiness will kill you. Because paddleboards are like, my parents, it's a new thing for them.
I get it. It's fun. It's trendy.
Oh yeah, but I grew up kayaking, so I'm I am so good at kayaking. Like I probably should have been a rower because I'm a really good rower. I have like Amy is got like the balance and the core. I am like built like a tiny tank.
Yeah, you got the arms.
I got the arms, I got the legs. Like I am a tiny tank.
You got the arms, you got the traps, like you got like all of that.
Yeah. So I used to kayak every single day in the summer around this lake. So when I went kayaking on my school trip, because like I was always, I was the shortest. I didn't have a good stamina for running. So I'd always come last in the runs, and people would like, some of the mean girls would make fun of me because I always came last. But again, I wasn't a runner. You can be athletic just at different things. You know, a gymnast, it does not have the same body as a weightlifter.
Yeah, like I had a friend in high school who was an amazing swimmer. Like swim club, went to like not tournaments, like swim meets, all that stuff, was very, very good. Could not run worth shit.
Yeah.
And was also like the sweatiest man I ever knew. So I was like, honestly, it's a good thing you're doing a sport in water.
So when it came to kayaking day, because there's also a difference between ocean kayaks and recreational kayaks. So recreational kayaks are wider. Ocean kayaks are thinner, and they are a lot more tippy, and they have a rudder because that's what works better for the ocean. Because like lake kayaks, you want something more sturdy because it's like choppier. but for the ocean, you want something more to move through the waves better.
Yeah.
So we get in these kayaks, and I, who's usually at the very back, I'm just going like, and everyone's like, "What the?" And because everyone was so cocky, literally, one of the girls who bullied me, when the first 5 minutes, she flipped her kayak.
That's
Yeah,
karma. That is
yeah,
karma.
like 10 of the so and so best athletes in the class, in this class, because it was a special athletics class, and I was
Hmm.
in it because I was a baseball player and a rower. That's how I got into this athletics program. Because I was a swimmer, a baseball player, a rower. Like that's what I excelled at. I was not a runner. I was not a basketball player.
No.
Like that's
You just
no.
did like the
And
unconventional sports.
exactly. So they're all flipping their kayaks because they're all cocky, thinking they'd be such good athletes. But you've never been in a kayak before in your entire life. Those things are tippy. You have to, because when you're in a kayak, you have to engage your core, engage your shoulders, and then engage your legs. Like kayaking is a full body
For
workout.
sure.
And people, they didn't realize that. But like again, it's that cockiness, because like you can, so when you're kayaking, they teach you how to do a wet water exit, but if you don't know what you're doing, it is terrifying and you can easily drown yourself in a kayak.
That is why I am terrified of kayaks, because I know myself and I just like my thing is I'm a very good swimmer, much like Kelsey. Like I'm very confident. I've actually saved somebody from drowning before. That was wild.
Mm-hmm.
But kayaks scare me for that particular reason, because I have very 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 long legs that even when I fit into a kayak, my knees are slightly bent. So I'm like kind of locked into a kayak. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just nervous that like if I flipped, I would panic, not be able to get my legs out, and you know,
Yeah.
go to bed forever.
Again, but you also know your limits. You play within it. BC
Yes.
Lotto. But that's again, Amy won't get into a kayak because she knows the risk and she knows herself,
Yes.
right? And when you're faced with risks, you have to, I don't know, use that problem solving and like any motor skills you may have in your brain to outweigh what are the consequences, what are the risks. Amy could get in a kayak, go kayaking for 20 minutes and have nothing go wrong and be completely fine. Or she could go kayaking and fall in the lake and then get stuck and drown. Or she could fall in and just pop right back to the top of the surface.
There's infinite possibilities and there's
Yeah,
infinite universes where these things have happened, and I like to live in the one where I just haven't done any of it.
exactly. So I think the moral of today, if you were ever offered for the price of an iced coffee to get in a tiny death trap machine, to go to the bottom of the ocean to look at a watery grave, maybe think about it
That
and go,
I'm sorry, the monologue you just said sounded exactly like when the Tower of Terror ride finishes at Disney World. Like the next time before you think about checking into a haunted hotel, you may want to think
thank
about
you.
other options.
Thank you. I'm very good at monologuing.
It was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. Yes, please do think about it. Weigh out your options, and the moral of the story is they could have survived and gone to the Blink 182 concert with his stepson.
I'm sure he would have loved that. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
sure.
sure.
Sure. I would actually really like to leave our listeners with one final thing about this submarine, and then no one will talk about this ever again for the rest of their
Yes,
lives.
please. Yes, please.
So
Until the movie comes out.
until the movie comes out, then we're all gonna be like, "Oh, remember this?"
Yeah.
This is a tweet from a man, and he said, "My dad is a retired submarine engineer. I asked him about the Titanic submersible, and he sent me this." And it's a screenshot of a text message that reads, "Since the 2000s, all submersibles of any size have to have a small television and DVD player so that if you get stuck down there, you can watch Shrek and chill out a bit. As the oxygen begins to run out, your brain function is affected and your IQ drops to the, and I in quotation, ideal Shrek zone. The perfect mental state to truly enjoy Shrek." At least they'll die having experienced Shrek in a much more meaningful way than any of us probably ever will. It was really hard to read that with a straight face.
That'll do, Amy. That'll do.
The internet is too much.
Yeah. I think on that perfect note, we should end it there.
Aye. Captain. Although, fuck, I just remembered this other thing. This last thing. The saga might potentially not end because on my TikTok, right before filming this podcast, because the algorithm fucking knows, it popped up this young girl saying like, oh my god, I'm about to go live on a boat for 2 months and work for a company that does expeditions to the Titanic. And she's wearing a sweatshirt that said Ocean Gate, which is the company the submersible's from. And this TikTok was from like months ago now. Mm-hmm. But just like the algorithm made it popular. Mm-hmm. And all the comments were like, hey, I think a job position might have just opened up. Or like I need to know what happened, because I went to her page. There was no information about any of it at all. It was just her talking about being a lesbian, which is probably why I was on my For You page, or just talking about like her just like with like sunset views and like the animals she's seen. It's like nothing about her actual job. So I'm hoping the algorithm brings me back to this lesbian submarine worker. I want to know. Anyway, we get in there. There's so much to talk about with this stupid submersible. It's actually insane. But
well, thank you so much for listening, Amy. Give us the outro before you descend deep to Titanic madness.
Yeah, I could honestly keep going for a while, and that's really, really, really bad. It's just because I see meme after meme after meme, or TikTok after TikTok after TikTok. Like, it's too much. It's too much for my brain to handle.
Oh, yes.
But thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope you found it enjoyable. And this will now go down in history as one of the wildest things that has happened in 2023. And remember, it's only June. We have 6 more months possible of wild things. I can't wait to see what's next. I wish I was one of those people who made a bingo chart for myself and was like, oh, this happened, this could happen, this could happen.
We'll do it next year.
Okay, that sounds good. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, wherever you can find podcasts. Our lovely voices are available to listen. You can watch the VODs on YouTube at Can You Take My Shift? And if you watch us over there, make sure you're subscribed and please give the videos a like. We really, really appreciate it. You can find us on social media on Twitter at CYTMS Podcast and on Instagram and Facebook at Can You Take My Shift? You can find Kelsey at Kelsey Peets on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. And you can find me, Amy, at Chili Amy on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. But until next time, see, can you take my shift?
I have the talking stick. I do. And I say in this submersible that I get to poop in the corner next. No, I want to poop in the corner next. No, I'm pooping in the corner next.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.